And joining us now on this topic is Dr. Emmanuel Navon, International Relations Lecturer at Tel Aviv University and Fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to start with a broader question on how important this visit is for both France and Egypt.
Well, it's important for France, for Macron, to show that he's relevant on the international scene when he's very much weakened domestically. He is heading a minority government. He's basically not able to run his own country. So he does what French presidents under the Fifth Republic like to do, which is to focus on foreign policy. Except that his foreign policy just shows weakness and delusion. Weakness because France will not be able to counter American influence and power in the region. And what he's doing is all talk. And delusion because Macron is basically visiting the region, ignoring the region's most important and most powerful country, which is Israel. To talk about the future of Gaza, meeting with the leaders of Egypt and Jordan, but without meeting Israeli leaders, is completely ridiculous. As for Egypt, Macron tried to propose some relief from the IMF, but again, at the end of the day, the only economic power in the region, the only superpower is the United States, and there's very little that France can do to help Egypt when France itself has a huge budget deficit of about 6% of GDP.
All right. Talking about that, Egypt has been trying to diversify its military aid, its weapons purchases for a long time. France has sold many weapons to Egypt. For a few years, it was even its main arms supplier. Where do the two countries stand right now on that, and what is the plan for the future, especially when we're looking at the criticism that Macron has received for sort of turning a blind eye to human rights issues in Egypt and just focusing on the positive?
Well, France is an arms supplier to many major dictatorships and human rights violators around the world, in Africa, in the Middle East, and elsewhere. So in that sense, Egypt is not an exception. But again, as you mentioned, it is true that Egypt has been trying to diversify its arms supplies, not only with France, but also with Russia. At the end of the day, Egypt depends on the United States, not only economically, but also militarily. Definitely since the signature of the Camp David Agreements 1979. And therefore, when President Trump says that Egypt won't have a choice but to accept his plan to displace the population of Gaza and to install some of the inhabitants of Gaza inside Egypt, so Egypt opposes it, but there's very little that Egypt can do to say no to America.
All right, and just finally here, a shorter answer on why this choice to focus on a visit with Egypt and with other Arab nations present and not visiting Israel on a trip to the Middle East.
Well, Macron is reverting to France's Arab policy, which was basically initiated by de Gaulle in the 60s. But Macron, as I said before, that his foreign policy shows weakness and delusion. He's still living in the 60s and the 70s, and I think he doesn't understand that the Middle East has changed, that the only way for France to be influential in the region is to cooperate with the United States, to face reality as it is, instead of trying to repeat the old scenarios of the past and old formulas that are no longer relevant to the region.
All right, and just finally, one last question here. Is there any surprise from this meeting?
No, I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, this is a typical Macron diplomacy. It's all show, it's all very theatrical. But at the end of the day, he doesn't call the shots in the region. Same thing about his recent visits to Lebanon, just because of the historical and cultural ties between France and Lebanon. It doesn't mean that France has any leeway and influence in the region. Again, Macron is theatrical. He has very little power inside France because he leads a minority government. He's led with foreign policy. But I think that at the end of the day and bottom line, his analysis on foreign policy is wrong, and he only displays the bottom line, which is the weakness of France in the world and in the region.
The weakness of France in the world and in the region. Big words. Dr. Emmanuel Navon, thank you very much for your input and your analysis this evening.